Let's get into Escape from New York. Let's get into Welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today we're going to talk about a film I've seen many times over years by one of my very favorite filmmakers of all time. And that film is John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Yes, I was lucky enough last night at the Alamo Draft House in Raleigh, North Carolina. My buddy Dale A. from the Bat and Spider podcast and I got tickets and went to get to see this on the big screen, and it looked phenomenal on the big screen. And the Carpenter soundtrack over those speakers, it sounded phenomenal, it looked phenomenal. I had a great time watching this. Now, I've seen a couple Carpenter films in the theaters before. I've seen retro screenings of Halloween when I lived in New England. I've seen John Carpenter's Vampires and Ghosts of Mars, but this is a film I really wanted to see when I announced it. So I was excited to see this on the big screen. Now, this film had a $5 million budget. If you look online, it says 6 or 7. Carpenter stated in many interviews it was a $5 million budget, so I'm going to go by his word because he's the one that directed the film. And upon release, July 10th of 1981, it made $25.2 million. So this was a nice size hit for Avco Embassy. It's rated R. It's an hour and 39 minutes long. Now, coming out to the success of Halloween, Carpenter did 2 TV films. One was Elvis in '79, which that's where he met Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell played Elvis in that film. And coming off of that, he signed a 2-picture deal with Avco Embassy. The first movie was The Fog, which was a nice size hit for Avco Embassy. And the second film was going to be The Philadelphia Experiment. Carpenter was working on the script. He realized he didn't have a third act that he was comfortable with. So he went to the head of the studio and said, look, I don't think I could do this film or make it interesting, but I have this other script. Because Carpenter wrote this script in '74, and they greenlit the film. Now, he brought his good friend Nick Castle in to help add some levity to the film. And Nick Castle was the Shape in the original Halloween. He directed The Last Starfighter, and he played Michael Myers a little bit in the Halloween 2018 version. And as we all know, Kurt Russell, this is his first action role. Kurt Russell played Snake Plissken. Now, he was not Avco Embassy's first choice. They wanted Tommy Lee Jones, and they kind of forced Carpenter to offer Tommy Lee Jones the role. Tommy Lee Jones thankfully turned it down. But even then, they didn't want Kurt Russell. They wanted Charles Bronson, they wanted Jeff Bridges, but finally Carpenter got his way and Kurt Russell got the role. Because Kurt Russell was mostly known for Disney films. It's how he got started in acting. He did a lot of Disney movies back in the day. So they didn't really think he could pull off an action film. And if you're a fan of this movie, you know he pulls it off beautifully. We also got Lee Van Cleef in this film as Hulk. They surround Kurt Russell with some great character actors and some great characters in the film. We got the great Ernest Borgnine as Cabby. That was that role was basically Nick Castle's idea. Isaac Hayes is the Duke of New York. We got Harry Dean Stanton as Brain. Donald Pleasance is the President of the United States, which is hilarious because he has the British accent the whole time. Adrienne Barbeau is Maggie. She was married to Carpenter at the time. Tom Atkins, Charles Cyphers in this film. A lot of Carpenter regulars, Buck Flowers in this film as well. Right in the beginning of the film, we see New York City with a voiceover by Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis provides the voiceover and the computer voice in this film, and it just says about how crime in New York went up 400%, so the United States government decided to wall off the city, and that's where all the prisoners go for the whole country. And the National Police Force is encamped outside the wall, and Statue of Liberty Island is their main headquarters. And we see Liberty Island right in the beginning, and we get that great shot of New York City all dark. It's a matte painting, but it looks fantastic. They match it pretty well with the water in the front and the wall behind. It looks really cool. It still holds up really well to this day. And James Cameron worked on some of those matte paintings. Yes, he was working for Roger Corman at the time in his effects department, and he was working here on some of this Escape from New York effects for the matte paintings. So that's pretty cool. This is pre-Terminator, obviously, so he wasn't James Cameron yet. And then we're introduced to Snake Plissken. He was captured by the United States Police Force, and he's him getting off this bus, walking down this hallway, but he doesn't say anything. And then we get to the plot motivator of the whole film. Air Force One gets taken over by terrorists and gets crashed into New York City. Donald Pleasance, the President of the United States, survives, but the prisoners in New York have plans for him. They take him hostage and tell the police force they try to come in, they're going to kill him. And he has a tape that was important for this Hartford summit going on. So the clock is ticking. Because the Hartford summit goes off in about 24 hours, so they have to get the president back and out and get that tape back in 24 hours. That's where Snake Plissken comes in. They lodge 2 explosives in his arteries, tell him he has 24 hours to go in, get the president, and get back out. So he goes over the wall, gets into New York, and then Carpenter does something really, considering the movie's only an hour and 39 minutes long, he does set up the different factions in New York where the prisoners, there's underground people, they're called the Crazies. were kind of cannibalistic. Then you have the Duke of New York who runs his factions, and they set up the world really nicely in a quick amount of time. And they did a great job dressing the sets. Joe Alves was a production designer. He'd done some other films, but he's most famous for directing Jaws 3D. And they would have to truck in, because they shot mostly nights in St. Louis. They only shot one day in New York. That was the Liberty Island sequence. Everything else on the streets is shot in St. Louis, because St. Louis had a major fire at their waterfront in the late 70s. So you had all these burned out buildings, blocks that could be used to shoot this film where nobody was going to be around at nighttime. And the city let Carpenter and crew come in, shut the lights off, move stuff around, junk up the streets. Then in the morning they had to pick everything up so people can come in and work, and then at night they drag it all back out and shoot the film. So Snake goes in and he meets Cabby, and he realizes the president doesn't have his tracking monitor on, some other Buck Flower has it on. And eventually Cabby helps him find Brain, and he knows Brain from a previous robbery they were trying to pull off. And they don't have a really good relationship, but Brain decides to help Snake. He doesn't really have a choice, because Snake says he's going to kill him to get the president back, because Brain knows where he is. And they run into different adventures, like Snake gets captured and has to fight off this big dude in the wrestling ring, Ox Baker. And then finally we have the bridge scene, and they have to fight off the Duke of New York. Everybody dies except for Snake and the President of the United States. And then at the end there's that great ending where the president's getting ready to go live and play this tape about fusion energy. And really it's one of Cabby's big band tapes, and Snake's walking away ripping the guts out of the tape as the movie ends, and Carpenter's awesome score comes up. It's a great nihilistic ending, and Carpenter's great at those kind of endings, and that's Escape from New York. This film is a classic for me. I love Carpenter films, especially his older work, and this is definitely, I would say, top 8 Carpenter films for me, this film. It's a film I grew up on. It's a film I own a Blu-ray of from Scream Factory. I really like this film, and it's a really well done film. I love Carpenter's shot selection. I love Dean Cunny's cinematography. I love the acting. I love the characters he creates. There's a lot of good character work going on here. And Kurt Russell's awesome as Snake Plissken, but so are the other actors around him. They all have their own personality. They're all fleshed out. I mean, you only get to spend a little bit of time with them, but they do a nice job of giving them their own. Each one has their own personality, and when you see them on screen, you know, that's Cabby, or that's Brain, and that's Maggie. And they all have their own motivations for doing what they're doing. But really, if Kurt Russell's character didn't work, the movie would fail. And Kurt Russell, thank God, was up to the task, and he pulled it off beautifully. Now, this is Kurt Russell's favorite role and film that he's ever done. He loves this character. It's why he came back in '96 and did Escape from L.A. Adrienne Barbeau and Carpenter were married at the time. Susan Hubley's in this film, and chock full of nuts when Snake Plissken goes in there. She's in there. She's the girl that's in there. And her and Kurt Russell were married at the time. They had just had a kid together before this movie came out. But Escape from New York, I mean, it's a film, if you're a fan, everybody's seen this film at least once. I've always really enjoyed this film. I even enjoy Escape from LA. I know it's not as good as this film, and it's a little cheesier, but I do enjoy that film. I think there's some really good things in that film. But Escape from New York's the better film, and I would give Escape from New York a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film, and seeing it last night on the big screen was a huge treat for me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, 9 out of 10 for Escape from New York. What are your thoughts on this film? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I greatly would appreciate that. This is going to be my only video this week. I am heading to Pennsylvania, back to the motherland, to visit family and friends and party my face off next weekend, this coming weekend. So I hope you're all doing well out there. I'll be back the following week with a review for The Sentinel. I can't wait to review that film. I haven't seen it in a while. I just got the Blu-ray from Scream Factory and some other reviews. And so until then, I hope you're all doing well out there. I'm just going to leave you with bye.